For decades, Gene Simmons has been one of the loudest voices telling the story of Kiss. But no matter how many times that story is told, one name keeps coming back: Ace Frehley. Even now, long after Kiss ended touring, fans still defend the original Spaceman with an intensity that never fades. And that raises a serious question. Why, after all this time, does Ace Frehley still command that kind of loyalty? This isn't about gossip, it isn't about grudges, it's about legacy and who gets to define it. Because every time Gene Simmons makes a comment that feels dismissive or reframes the past, the same thing happens. Fans don't move on, they push back. Not emotionally, historically. And that's where this story really begins. There are two versions of Kiss history that exist at the same time. There's the official narrative, the one focused on business success, brand longevity, and discipline. And then there's the fan narrative, the one rooted in origin stories, chemistry, and raw magic. This video isn't about who legally owns Kiss. It's about who emotionally represents what Kiss originally was. Because for fans, Kiss didn't start as a corporation. It started as lightning in a bottle, and Ace Frehley was a huge part of that lightning. When fans defend Ace, they don't start with opinions. They start with receipts, songs, riffs, moments that defined the early sound of the band. Tracks like Cold Gin, Shock Me, Rocket Ride, Parasite. These weren't just album cuts, they were identity markers. They sounded dangerous, loose, unpolished in a way that felt alive. Ace's guitar wasn't perfect, but it was unmistakable. And that's the point. Fans don't defend Ace because he fit the mold. They defend him because he broke it. Those early Kiss records don't feel calculated, they feel instinctive. And when later narratives downplay that contribution, even subtly, it doesn't land as history revision to fans. It lands as erasure of the foundation. But Ace's legacy isn't just about the music, it's about the Spaceman. That character wasn't just makeup, it was personality. Ace brought humor, vulnerability, and unpredictability to a band built on spectacle. Where others felt larger than life, Ace felt human, relatable, like someone who shouldn't quite be there, but somehow was. And that mattered. Because fans didn't just admire Ace, they identified with him. He wasn't the mastermind, he wasn't the CEO, he was the guy who looked like he could disappear at any moment and still walked on stage and delivered something unforgettable. That contrast is where the loyalty begins to harden. Over time, Gene Simmons became the symbol of control, structure, and long-term vision. Ace Frehley became the symbol of instinct, chaos, and authenticity. Neither role is evil, but only one of them feels like the origin story. And that's where narrative tension enters the picture. Gene Simmons doesn't erase Ace Frehley, but his framing often reorders importance. From a business standpoint, that makes sense. From a fan standpoint, it doesn't. Because fans don't rank legacy the same way corporations do. For fans, what came first matters more than what lasted longest. So when the story feels managed, fans lean harder into memory. And that pushback has only intensified in the farewell era. Kiss officially ended the End of the Road tour in late 2023. That was the final chapter. But for many fans, something felt unresolved. Not because the band didn't play the hits, not because the spectacle wasn't massive, but because endings validate beginnings. And for fans who associate the beginning of Kiss with Ace Frehley, that finality without him didn't feel complete. Instead of closing the book, it reopened the debate. And that's when something important happened. Ace's legacy detached itself from the band. Because while Kiss stopped touring, Ace Frehley's influence didn't stop moving. Generations of guitarists across genres have credited Ace as their gateway into rock music. Not because he was flawless, but because he made the guitar feel accessible. You didn't need to be perfect, you needed feel. That kind of influence doesn't require permission from an institution. It exists independently. And once a legacy survives outside the system that created it, it becomes untouchable. That's why fans don't defend Gene Simmons the same way. His legacy is secure through structure and control. Ace's legacy is secure through memory and impact. And that difference explains why this conflict never really ends. Gene represents continuity. Ace represents origin. Gene represents control. Ace represents chemistry. And fans don't fight for Ace because he was perfect. They fight for him because he was real. You can end tours, you can lock catalogs, you can shape official narratives, but you can't overwrite emotional memory. And that's why, decades later, the Spaceman still wins the crowd. If you value legacy over image, if you believe real bands are built on chemistry, not control, make sure you subscribe to Next Wave Vision 92. Join the silent majority that still cares about what rock music stood for, not just how long it lasted. And if this breakdown resonated with you, watch the next video suggested on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it.